In this episode of Restore It, I'm going to show you the progress I've made in what I'm now calling the second from last workshop build episode. I've got a few more things that I want to get done before I call this workshop finished, so what I'm going to do is post a final episode in a few months once all of those things are done, and in the meantime I'm going to use the workshop to make restoration videos. Now that I've got the shot blasting cabinet, the spray booth and the compressor set up, I'm pretty much good to go. Things like a new zinc plating setup, an oven for Cerakote and new ceiling lights will be filmed when they arrive, and I'll add them all into that final episode. In this episode though, I'm going to be finishing the tool stands, unboxing and building up some new pieces of equipment, installing the ramp, having some more electrical work done, and generally getting the place ready to use. Before I make a start on these tool stands, I just have a quick word from our sponsor, Babble. Babble is one of the top language learning apps in the world, with over 10 million subscriptions worldwide. As a British person who recently lived in Spain for 2 years, I stumbled upon Babble whilst I was looking for an affordable way to learn Spanish that didn't involve leaving my house and could be done in a time frame that suited me. I use Babble for about 15 minutes a day whilst taking breaks at the workshop to keep my Spanish skills growing, as my parents now live in Spain and I visit them as often as I can. The reason I chose Babble is because it not only teaches you to speak the language you want to learn, but also to read and write it, something I really struggled with before I started using it. Babble prepares you for real life situations whilst it teaches you, and because of this, it is scientifically proven to get you started on a new language in just 3 weeks. You only need 10 to 15 minutes a day to see results, and it's a really constructive and surprisingly fun way to pass a small amount of time that you would have otherwise spent scrolling through Instagram or getting sucked into the depths of YouTube Shorts, which definitely isn't the funnest thing to do. Babble is a great way to mix up your boring daily routine and do something genuinely rewarding. I've gone from habla inglés to more hola estoy aprendiendo a hablar español, which is a great feeling. You can also learn on the go from anywhere in the world because you don't need Wi-Fi and lessons can be downloaded. Because I've partnered up with Babble, Restore It viewers will get a huge 60% off your subscriptions. Just click the link at the top of the video description now. Big thanks to Babble for supporting the channel and helping me to improve my Spanish. Let's get started on the workshop. I've had these I-beams for so long that they were meant to be installed in the last workshop, but I just never got round to it. Now that I'm in a much more suitable workshop and in the middle of a workshop build series, I'm going to take this opportunity to get these finished. Firstly, I'm going to mark and cut the plates that the tools are going to attach to. With that done and the tops of the I-beams flat, I can weld them in place. I'm not going to go over the top of these. I've cleaned them with degreaser and silicone remover and I'm going to prime and paint them in matte black. I'm giving them 2 coats of primer and then 2 coats of base coat. With that done, they're looking much more presentable and ready for some tools. I've installed some Colad film for booth on the floor of the spray booth to help with overspray, and I'm glad I did. So now they're dry, I can move them into place. I'm going to attach the tools to the stands, but not the stands into the ground just yet. I want to use the workshop for a little bit to see if there are any changes I want to make, like the placement of these stands. I'm also on the hunt for more of these I-beams as I currently have 6 tools that could do with stands and only 3 I-beams, so things might change in the last episode if I do end up finding more of them. With the rust removed from the drill press, these 2 are ready to go. They're at the perfect height for use and once bolted down can really be pushed and pulled on without the worry of them moving. I'm going to try this vise here for a bit to see how it goes, and by the time the final episode comes out, I'll have it fully restored. For now, this belt sander is going to be mounted to this workbench, and because the last belt snapped on me, I'm going to add a new one. And there we go, 4 of the 6 tools are sorted, I just need to find a place for the final 2. Moving on to one of the new tools, This is a MIDI Pro modular fixture welding table from Mac Industries, a family-run business based in the UK. I've wanted a proper welding table that is truly flat for a long time now, and when it comes down to it, Mac Industries is the company to go with. This subframe cross-braced truly flat table is made from laser-cut 6mm hot-rolled, pickled and oiled S275 structural mild steel. This means that just after production, the sheet steel is run through an acid bath, or pickling, to remove any impurities, rust and mill scale from the surface of the steel. Using HRPO is a lot better for the fibre laser cutter, as it doesn't need to cut through mill scale and impurities, which can affect the accuracy of it, and the final results look a lot better. Everything about this table, down to the self-leveling Footmaster casters, is top notch. You can buy these fully assembled by Mac Industries, but I've opted for the self-assembly option as I'll take any opportunity to improve my welding. So what I have here is a 1250mm by 750mm MIDI Pro, with legs, casters, 3 Mac Pro Slim Jim squares, and 4 Mac clamps. And Mac Industries don't just produce welding tables, they have all sorts of welding related tooling, clamping, fasteners and power tools on the fixture systems and equipment side of their website, as well as a laser and fabrication side where they offer precision fibre laser cutting, metal fabrication, design, welding and metal folding. So if you're looking for a super high quality welding table like this one, the tools they make or the laser cutting services they offer, make sure you check out Mac Industries at the link in the video description. These guys were kind enough to hook restore it up with the table and I cannot wait to put it to use. To build the table, I first need to prepare the parts I'm going to weld for welding and get the subframe and side skirts in place. This subframe is what ensures a truly flat surface. Mac supply assembly plates with each table that you can use to bolt everything in place before it's welded. With everything in place, I can now use threaded bar to compress the table from all sides. With those running the width and length of the table, I can pull the corners into each other, making sure it's perfectly square. I can now add the leg plates and secure the bottom of the subframe using the supplied plates. Some cutting and grinding is needed to make enough bolts for this, but it's not taking too long, and really I could have just gone out and bought longer bolts. With everything straight and locked into place, it's now ready to weld. The only thing is, I don't currently have a welder. So we'll come back to this and the squares later in this episode, after I've unboxed the new welder. In the meantime, I've dragged Scott and Lewis into the workshop to help me put the car lift back up in its new place. Much thinking went into where this lift should go, but in the end it was decided that it should go a little bit further in than this red line to make sure the rear of the car can clear the roof beams. With both posts up, I can reattach the hydraulic line whilst the holes are drilled and filled on the first post, with anchor bolts and anchor bolt sealer. The middle section can now be added to ensure the second post is perfectly aligned with the first. With all of the holes drilled and nipped up, we can now add the arms back on. It's now 24 hours later, so I can tighten the anchor bolts down fully and secure the lift in place. I'm filling it back up with the same oil that came out of it, because on the episode it was taken down, a few of you said that the oil looked almost brand new. With a few test presses to make sure nothing is catastrophically wrong, it seems to be working as it should. So now for the real test. Can it lift the car without falling on top of me? Yes, it can. And there's plenty of headroom at the back if I do ever need to get a taller car on there. I'm pretty pleased with how that went. I definitely couldn't have done it without Lewis and Scott, so thanks to those guys, and it feels so good to have a car lift back in the workshop. In a week or so I'll check the nuts again to make sure they're tight, and I'll do this every 2 weeks thereafter to make sure it doesn't ever squash me. Moving on, R-Tech Welding were kind enough to supply the channel with some of their most technologically advanced creations to date. You're looking at not one, but two Mug 180s and a Mug 250. These state-of-the-art mugs are ergonomic, have amazing capacity and temperature range capabilities, can achieve an unlimited duty cycle and come with a 5-year warranty, just like all of the other machinery they produce. Big thanks to R-Tech for the new equipment, I can't wait to put them through their paces. R-Tech did also send another package, which includes a ProMig 250 amp industrial inverter MIG welder, which we should probably take a look at as well. This is the cream of the crop when it comes to MIG welders. Ever since I started welding around 5 years ago, I knew one day I had to get an R-Tech machine. The reviews speak for themselves, and the sheer quality oozing out of this thing really backs them up. The paint job inside and out is something that stands out straight away. It's like car level quality. And then when you check the spec sheet, and you see all of the top quality components, like the class leading Siemens IGBTs that make up this ProMig, you begin to realise why they have such a good reputation. With a welding range of 30 amps to 250 amps, this welder is the perfect choice for someone like me who is looking to use it for automotive stuff as well as fabrication in an industrial setting. Because of the powerful inverter inside, this welder requires an industrial 32 amp 240 volt 3-pin plug and socket, something I'm going to have installed later on in this episode. To keep me welding trouble-free for as long as possible, R-Tech hooked me up with a lot of accessories and consumables, two of which were a G-Tech gas regulator and an argon flow meter, so I can seriously fine-tune the flow of gas through the torch like never before. Because I'm currently doing most of my welding on the E30 chassis, I've decided to drop down a wire size from 0.8mm to 0.6mm. This should help me get flatter and more precise welds on thin sheet metal. R-Tech Welding don't just produce MIG welders, they're also well known for their super high quality TIG welders, plasma cutters and welding masks. All of their machines come with a 5-year warranty and a 10-year duty of care, and their customer service is some of the best in the industry. They also have everything else you can think of when it comes to welding on their website, which is well worth checking out if you haven't already. You can find their link in the description of this video, or just Google R-Tech Welding and you'll find them straight away. They were also amazing enough to hook me up with my dream welding mask, the Spiritus Air Pro, an air-fed, true colour welding mask system that makes regular welding helmets feel almost obsolete. This helmet definitely gives me Halo vibes, but it looks absolutely amazing. I think if I was able to design the ultimate welding mask, this is exactly what I'd come up with. I'll just run through a few of the main features whilst I get it set up. It has a massive ADF measuring 112mm by 75mm, 4 sensors making it ultra sensitive and gives it a super fast switching time of 1/25,000th of a second. It has a class leading shade range of DIN 4 to DIN 15, auto power on with any movement and auto power off after 10 minutes with no movement or no arc, class leading TH3 filtration, an air supply that automatically adjusts the power according to the condition of the air filter, 3 layers of filtration, a pre-filter, an active carbon filter and the main filter which deals with particles, welding fumes and other pollutants at a P3 level. P3 filtration filters about 99.95% of particles smaller than 0.5 micrometers. This really is the ultimate welding helmet, and I think along with the new welder it's going to help me improve my welding massively. We'll come back to this later on, but for now I need to get everything set up and ready for welding. To begin with, I'm going to attach the new regulator and argon flow meter to a fresh bottle of argon 15 that I've bought for the occasion. I've learned a little trick from R-Tech's YouTube channel which helps you identify tiny leaks that you might not have noticed without it. I'm removing the ball bearing from the flow meter and drawing a line on it with a Sharpie. This will clearly show if the ball bearing is spinning on a thin layer of gas, if it's leaking. With those attached, I can now finally tune the flow of gas to the exact amount I need, and I know it will be exactly the same every time I use it. With that done, I'm going to attach the gas line to the welder and change the tip. These torches come with a 0.8mm tip as standard, so I'm going to swap it out for a 0.6mm one so that it matches the wire. To support the 15kg spool of wire this welder can take, the 22.5kg bottle of gas, and the 17kg welder itself, R-Tech have supplied one of their heavy duty welding trolleys which I'm quickly going to build and then mount everything to. The same goes for this trolley, high quality parts and it feels very sturdy. Weighing in at 32kg with the spool of wire attached, I had to carry them both separately, but this trolley handles them just fine, with a 30 litre bottle of gas on the back as well. I can now attach the torch and earth cable, hook the welder up to the gas and install the spool of wire. And there we go, pretty much ready to go. I'm going to store the Spiritus Air Pro on the bottom shelf for now, and now I just need to do one more thing before I can try it out. I first need that 32 amp 3-pin industrial socket to be installed. This means getting the electricians back in and have one professionally installed. I've decided that I want the socket in the middle of the room as that's where the E30 will be, and the welding table is on casters, so it can move to the welder rather than the welder moving to it. This means drilling a hole in this bit that sticks out and mounting it just to the left of it. In the final episode, I'm going to move the compressor just to the right of this bit that sticks out, so that's why the socket can't be put there. With the cabling secure, the isolating socket in place and the plug installed on the welder, it's finally ready to go. Before I test it, I just need to put the shelf and everything else back to where it was. And the same goes for this workbench. In the final episode, I'll have a metal locker for all of these paints and a proper metal paint prep table, which will free this workbench up for projects and more storage. Whilst I'm here, I'm drilling another spray gun holder down and removing the old water traps from the bottom of the guns, because with the new CPM15 from Northern Compressed Air, moisture is no longer an issue. So now that everything is back to where it was and the new socket is live, I can turn the welder on for the first time, get the wire fed through and give it a go. When it comes to the gas, for MIG welding steel, it's recommended that you set the meter to 10 to 15 litres per minute, which as you can see is very easy to do. Right, let's give this a try. Well, it's an absolute dream. There is almost no splatter at all. The penetration is so good, the welds are so clean, the sound is spot on, and I think I'm in love with this welder. I cannot wait to do an entire E30 chassis episode with this thing. I think the air tools are going to be used a lot less, and I'll definitely be saving on flap discs. Before I get on with the E30, I first need to turn the power up to 5 and the wire speed up to 9 and get this Mac table welded. Before I weld it, I'm adding one more threaded bar through the middle to make sure it's as square and as straight as possible. I can now bolt the middle plates down, which will really straighten everything up, and then clean the spots that are going to be welded. With everything now aligned, I'm going to tack it into place so I can remove the threaded bars before welding it properly. It's hard for me to show you the welding, as this R-Tech machine seems to be a lot brighter on camera than the old one. In coming episodes, I'm going to choose one of the many options that people have used in the past to show the welding better, but for now, I'm afraid you'll just have to squint. Just look at how clean these welds are. This welder, the flow meter, and the new wire is making this so much easier than it was before. So now the bars are gone, I'm going to fillet weld all of the slotted parts together. 0.6mm wire isn't the most suitable wire for 6mm steel, but the ProMig is making light work of it. In total, there are 60 fillet welds needed to complete this table, so this is going to take me some time. I know I'm going on a bit, but the Spiritus Air Pro is unbelievably good at what it does. This helmet has removed all of the negatives I had with welding, and it actually makes it a joy to do. You put it on, you start to feel hot straight away, your breathing starts to fog the screen up, and then you press the button and it's like you've entered the future. The fog clears, you cool down, and welding becomes truly enjoyable. I found myself keeping the mask on whilst taking breaks as it was just so pleasant to be in there. My welding isn't the cleanest in the world, especially when it comes to thick stuff like this. Some are better than others, but this would not have been possible if I had been using the old machine. For an amateur welder, I'm really happy with these and super impressed with what this welder can do. So with all of those done, I can now weld on the leg plates, which perfectly and very satisfyingly slot into place. With all of the welding done, I can now clean them up and get the legs on. Now just to get it upright and attach the casters. Oh, I forgot to mention that this table weighs over 150 kilograms and I currently don't have anyone to lend a hand. So it's time to get clever, or extremely stupid, and do it by myself. With that palaver over, I can now prepare the casters and get them attached. These very fancy looking Footmaster levelling casters can be wound down to reveal thick rubber feet which will definitely stop the table from moving. A very nice feature to have indeed. So that's it complete and ready to go. It now feels like it weighs almost nothing, which my back definitely knows isn't the case. Now I can use the table and the easy squares to make up the Mac Slim Jim squares. I'll skip to the end of this process as they go together very much like the table does. And there we go, the new welding setup is complete. I just want to give huge thanks to both R-Tech Welding and Mac Industries for supporting the channel. As I'm not welding every single day, I think this will be my setup for a very, very long time, if not forever. I still have a lot to learn when it comes to welding and fabrication, and these two pieces of equipment are miles ahead of my skill level, but I'm glad I've got them now to help me improve quicker in both areas. So with time running out, I've decided to leave things like the floor, the ceiling lights, and loads more for one final episode in a few months' time. I'm super keen to get back to the E30 and antiques, as I know most of you are as well. So I'd say this workshop is about 90% complete. And so far, this build has cost me so much time and money, I just need to get back to posting regularly, especially after the Mercedes debacle and moving to and from Spain. Now that all of that is behind me and the new professional workshop is pretty much done, it's time to restore things like never before, and I'm truly excited to get started. One of the first episodes in the new workshop is going to involve some of the E30 parts I've restored in the past and a £150,000 laser. Stay tuned and get subscribed to find out exactly what I mean by that, but that's all for this episode and the workshop build for the time being. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.